Hello, my name is Caden, and today I'm going to show you how to do a transmission fluid and filter change. This will be on my 1990 Oldsmobile 98 Regency. This will also apply to any other vehicle that has the GM 440-T4 4-speed automatic transmission with overdrive. This was used in the Bonneville, Sabre, Park Avenue, even some of the Cadillacs, I think. Anyway, lots of vehicles. So you could use either jack stands or ramps. I prefer to use the ramps, safer and easier for me to crawl under. Jack stands here are just to hold the mat down. So your transmission pan is going to be this gray one here. Mine's a little banged up, but it's not leaking. I think there is 19 10mm bolts we're going to remove them in a certain way as to try to not make a mess and let the fluid come out slowly. And typically what I like to do is I'll start loosening this side, the more narrow side up here, and start working back until the pan starts to tip down, and then this end here kind of acts as a spout for it to drain into the pan here. Now this is all I'm using. Expect about anywhere between 6 and 7 quarts to drain out of this, so I will have to wait till this is about half full, put it in a bottle, and then do it again, drain it more. So just note that if you're using one of these, if you've got a really large container, then you won't have to worry about it as much. So I'm going to start removing the 10mm bolts and letting the pan hang down and letting it drain. Now this is a slow process, so give yourself a bunch of time to do this, because you don't want to rush it. I guess it depends how big of a mess you want to make, but either way, let's get on it. Alright, so here's a good example of what I'm talking about. I've removed 5 bolts, and already we've got fluid pouring out, or kind of just trickling, whatever you want to call it. I think this is good. I'm not in a hurry, so I'm going to let this drain out for quite a while before I start undoing more bolts, because otherwise this fluid's going to run down the side of the pan and drip all over the outside. This is a precaution. I'm not trying to get fluid all over it so that it soaks through onto the driveway. I'm going to get a floor jack and I'm going to lift under the subframe here and lift up this driver's side of the car just a little bit so that more of the fluid wants to come out this way into my spout. Alright, so I have the driver's side of the car lifted, and I just loosened 2 more bolts, and now we are pouring out. Alright, now that my pan is starting to get on the full side here, I lowered the car back down so that we're just kind of trickling out now. So if your pan is starting to get like dangerously full, like mine will soon be, you could always just throw a bolt back in and tighten it down until it stops. I may have to do that here in a second, but I'm just gonna watch it for a little bit and we'll see. Alright, so I emptied the pan most of the way, at least till my bottle was full, and then I just started undoing a few more bolts at a time until I leave about 4 in the back there. There's my other pile. And then the pan moves pretty freely now. It's going to try to fall. You can even pull down on it some, get a little more fluid to come out. Don't pry too hard because you don't want to bend the end of the pan, but just try to, the more you get out the better. I usually just hold it with my hand because most of the fluid's gone at that point, and it's typically pretty easy to balance at that point, so I guess we'll keep going. Alright, so I finally got the pan removed. You can see this nice dent here. This is the magnet that's in the pan that's inside of the transmission now. This one is not looking super fantastic. You don't want to see very big chunks of metal at all, but this one looks like it's definitely got some wear going on, so it's a good thing we're doing this. I'm gonna clean this off too. I'm gonna clean out the whole inside of the pan, everything, because it's got some dirt inside of it. Old gasket is still attached, so we'll have to remove that off. See, it's already breaking apart. That's how old this is. This right here that you're looking at, this big piece here, this is the filter for the transmission, and it has a seal that goes up about right there. That's right about where it goes up at. So if you're gonna pry it around this area. Just don't use metal tools against this metal surface and scratch it, or just firmly grasp it and pull down. Now if the neck of the filter snaps, it's not the end of the world. I've had it happen. You just gotta pull the rest of it out later. And then the hardest part's gonna be getting the seal out when it, and you'll see what I'm talking about here soon. So I have the pan cleaned up and sitting off to the side. I have the filter removed now. It wasn't too bad to remove actually, and I didn't end up breaking the neck off. You don't want to just pull on one end and do that. You want to try to twist it back and forth, and what I found helped is this sponge, believe it or not. So what I did was I placed the sponge up against here and got my pry bar underneath and got it to kind of start coming out of this hole, and then I just twisted it back and forth and pulled down, and it popped out, and now you can see up inside here. So now we're ready to get our new parts out. Now here's my old filter on the left, new filter on the right, and you'll notice one main difference. This and this. So there's a seal on this. Don't try to pull this off of it. And you can see it kinda. So we have to find a way to get that out of that hole. So you're probably thinking, well, I'll just pry it out. Well, it's metal around there and you can't just tear up that surface. So you have to. So what I've done in the past, since these are typically a metallic seal, go around the sides, and if you can chisel it to get it a smaller shape and then get a plier in there, you might be able to pull it down. So I did end up getting the seal out kind of the first way I described. I took a screwdriver and a rag and had it up against that piece of metal, and I chiseled it inward carefully but firmly to get it to bend its shape in, and then I got it so it would eventually twist while it was inside of there, and then I got a plier and grabbed one of these bent ends, and it was able to pull out, and that is all it was to it. Now give yourself some time, don't rush it, because it will take a while, but I've done it enough times where I've gotten quicker at it. But just know it is possible. Don't give up over this little piece right here. So when you push it up into the pan, the seal is going to slide down this neck here, and now that it's lubricated with transmission oil, I just put my fingers underneath it and I was able to pop it off. So we're going to drive this into the transmission up in there. So I'm going to find an appropriate size socket that fits on this perfectly, and we'll re-lubricate it, and then we're going to tap it in before we shove the filter in, and then that'll go much smoother. Alright, so pan clean, magnet back in with it nice and cleaned up, and I got the underside all cleaned up, and our new filter is in there nice and snug. So now we're going to grab our gasket, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a small amount of grease. I'm going to place it in just a couple spots, just enough to so where the gasket will stick to the pan as I'm raising it up, and I don't want it to shift at all. And when we press it up, we're going to start putting in our bolts finger tight, and then start torquing them down to 120 inch-pounds. So like I said, no RTV, no sealant of any kind, no adhesive, just a tiny bit of grease just to get it to stay in place. Alright, so we got our pan back on. Everything is finger tight. So now I'm going to go get my little torque wrench and torque them all to 120 foot-pounds. And we're going to start up in the middle and just go back and forth until you work your way to the outside bolts. And then once they're all at 120 foot-pounds, you are clear to fill, and it should take about 6 quarts. So let me show you what I'm using. It's a Valvoline Dex/Merc automatic transmission fluid. I just bought it at Walmart. You could use this, or you could use the red bottle, the Max Life. I've used both and I've had no issues in the past. My Bonneville being the prime example, that thing never had issues with the transmission, and I had been using this, so yeah. Go ahead and start the engine up and let it get up to operating temperature. And what you'll do is you'll put it in reverse for about 3 seconds, neutral, drive, third, second, and first, all for about 3 seconds. Go back up to park, recheck the level again. Now, you're more than likely going to have to add some after it's been through each gear selection, and certain areas in the valve body have opened up for fluid to flow. Check the level again, add as necessary, and then go for a drive. I already have, and I can say it has made such a huge difference. I don't even feel first to second anymore, and I don't even feel second to third anymore. And downshifting is a lot smoother too. And I did end up adding about another half quart after my test drive. So you'll do about 7 quarts in total, and then check the level again at operating temperature, and then you are good to go. Make sure you don't have any leaks as well. I'm not pouring out all over the ground, so I would consider this a success. And I've got a little bit of a mess to clean up still. It's the next day now, so anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Take care.